So here we go then. We are on to the big theories of Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua. There are many of them. And we are talking about the script theory, the one that is the most common today. Okay. Is the fight scripted? Is there a script on how the fight's gonna go? Because in the past, there's been many scripts on Jake Paul's fights, which people have decided to release on social media and say. I remember a Tommy Fury one where, they were going at it, very close fight. Then in the eighth round, Jake Paul hits Tommy Fury on the eye with a big shot. Tommy Fury's eye starts bleeding badly. Tommy Fury's on the on the floor, you know, hand over his eye. And the fight gets stopped, referee waves it off. Um, yeah, we've had the old classics that people have put out there. In my opinion, none of Jake Paul's fights have been scripted. None of them have, and I don't think that this fight is scripted. Um, Look, Jake Paul's fights aren't scripted. He's just very clever with who he fights. So that's been in the past anyway. He's been very clever with who he picks to fight, such as Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson wasn't holding back. He wasn't biting his gloves, so that way he couldn't throw a punch. Absolutely pathetic, the excuses that people are coming out with. The reality is he was 60 years old and then just come out of a bloody wheelchair. Plus, he'd had all that things going on when he had to pull out the first time. So, yeah. Andre August and Ryan Borland were very clever opponents that he picked. Very clever Golden Glove champions he was going up against. Picking guys like Tyron Woodley, Anderson Silva, they're on the card, funnily enough. Very smart picking of opponents from it. This one is a pretty dumb one, to be honest. It is a really dumb one. I don't think it's scripted, but I personally think that Anthony Joshua knows that if he goes all out on Jake Paul, he will brutally hurt him and hospitalize him. That's what will happen if Anthony Joshua actually tries on Jake Paul. I made a video on it the other day, and I believe saying that Anthony Joshua will hold back. That's what's going to happen. And I also said in my prediction video that he will hold back. This fight would be like Mayweather and Deji, where the fight is so bad, Joshua's actually eventually going to have to force the pace a little bit more and just stop Jake Paul on his feet. That's what's going to happen here. And the only reason Jake Paul's taking this fight is because of the bag, is because of the money, because of the attention. Even if he does just get knocked spark out, the attention that will be around it. And it's not like, oh, he's completely ruined, because he's not. He's just a knockout Anthony Joshua, who's one of the best heavyweights of this era. You know, that's the reality here. If Jake Paul is to get knocked out cold, but I don't think he will, because Joshua will hold back on him. But there's no script, there's no contract for it, in my opinion. Joshua just knows the consequences. He knows what will happen to Jake Paul if he actually goes hard on him. He could bloody get done. This could be a manslaughter that we see here, honestly. But I think overall, people say that this is a script and it is, the script theory. I think, if anything, I would understand the theory the most for this fight, because he's fighting Anthony Joshua, who's way bigger than him, who's a massive risk, who's just got who's way more experienced than him, who's a two-time world heavyweight champion, who's an Olympic gold medalist. Joshua's basically won everything under the bloody sun in boxing, and Jake Paul is now stepping up to fight him. So I'd understand why people would think kind of that there's a script theory to it, and that it's too good to be a proper fight. It's not going to be a proper fight. It's not being agreed that it's not going to be a proper fight. It just won't be a proper fight. It just won't be. But they're doing it just for entertainment. That is why this is being done. Tyson Fury actually spoke some sense on it in a video with Adam Smith, saying that it's just entertainment, and who wouldn't do it for this much money, I completely agree with everything he said. But look, again, if people think there's a script for past fights, you're completely wrong. There's not for this fight. There's not a script for this fight. But if you there's been too many people saying there's been scripts for Jake Paul's fights and that they're scripted. They're not. He's just very smart with the business he does. He picks big names that sell pay-per-views, guys that on paper, makes people think that, they can bring a slight threat to him, and then it gets people interested, it gets people hyped up. So I think Jake Paul's just smart with what he does. The Mike Tyson fight was shocking, but it was ridiculously good business. Ridiculously good business. And you're stupid if you think there was a script. Mike Tyson was just 60 years of age and had all those health issues. That's what happened. The Tommy Fury fight, Jake Paul kind of bit off a bit more than he could chew, but he was outboxed, but I don't think he was massively, completely outskilled by him. That's why nothing really happened in the ego didn't finish after for Jake Paul, because it wasn't an absolute humiliation against Tommy Fury. He got schooled in that fight, and if he now thinks he can come and beat Anthony Joshua, it's not even, you can't even use the phrase, oh, he's bit off more he can chew here. This is just a death wish for Jake Paul. This is, it's literally just a death wish for him. It's not, though. It's not a death wish. It's just, how much money can I make? That's what it is. It's not a death wish. He knows he's not going to win the fight. It's not in a script. I don't think he's coming to win. I think he'll come to survive, or he's just going to, or he's probably just going to hope that Joshua just knows the consequences, which he does, and that he can severely hurt Jake Paul if he actually goes hard on him. That's honestly what I think. I don't think there's any script to it here. That Joshua will hold back anyway on him. You know, I know people would say, oh, Joshua doesn't owe Jake Paul anything. They're not exactly great mates, but look at the business they're doing together right now. I know they're not mates, but they were playing laser tag with each other a few years ago. Like, they clearly talk a bit here and there. I don't know, but I can't see Joshua going all out on Jake Paul. But I'd completely dismiss the script theory.